Can you beat Sultan Sanctuary with only the iron pan? The challenge is simple in this one. Sultan Sanctuary has an iron pan. Therefore, I can only use said iron pan to deal damage. Simple. The rules of the challenge are, I can only do damage with the pan, obviously, no glitches or exploits, and I must beat every boss in the game. The run starts on a ship in the middle of the ocean, and we're being attacked by pirates, and we have a princess on board. We need to rush through the ship to defend her, and once we get to the hub of the ship, we come across our first boss, the Unspeakable Deep. Now, an interesting quirk about this boss is that you're supposed to die, but as our rules say, we must beat every boss, so when I do die, I reset and try again. It takes 3 tries, but in those 3 attempts, we see the major problem of this run rear its ugly, ugly head. Our damage is terrible and will remain terrible for a long time, pretty much up until the last few fights of the game. So every battle is going to be an absolute slog. But with the Deep killed and his salt obtained, we talk to an old man on the beach. This guy asks us what gods we follow, and we tell him we follow the Iron Ones, which seems fitting due to our weapon. Now, we won't be following the Iron Ones the entire run, but it doesn't matter. Using the salt from the Deep, we can get a massive head start on levels, getting 13 levels all up, and dumping it all into strength. The run hasn't gotten difficult yet. My weapon, while pathetic in its damage output, does decent enough damage against the zombies and other low-level enemies around the map. And as we climb, I grab all the items for no reason. I can't use most of them, and the upgrade materials that are spread over the area can't be used on my weapon. The boss of the area, the Sodden Knight, is the weakest boss in the game. Not only that, it's weak to blunt damage, which we do. It's as simple as rolling through his attacks and punishing his openings, even though I only successfully do one of those things. My healing, his lack of health, and weakness to blunt damage gives me an easy victory. Not even close. After defeating the Sodden Knight, I decide that it would perhaps be best to try and level up my creed to gain some more healing items, and try to find some upgrade materials for the Iron Pan, those being the Charred Dole upgrade line. Now, if you didn't know, to upgrade creeds you need to go hunting for items dropped only by enemies. For example, Drowned Ears or Bandit Archer's Ears. It would therefore be prudent to inform you that I spent the next hour doing exactly none of those things. I'm not quite sure what I was doing. I think I was trying to farm charred dolls from the poison slimes in the woods, but I didn't get lucky and didn't get any. So instead of going crazy farming, let's instead go take on the next boss, the Queen of Smiles. It takes me a while and a couple of tries to get used to her moveset, but in the end, the best way to play this fight is to bait her spinning moves, hit her once or twice, then roll through her attack, and repeat. After that strategy's figured out, she's a simple fight, and using her salt, I get 2 more points in strength. The Alchemist is an easy enough fight. Wait, what am I talking about? That's a total lie. My damage is miserable, even with weapon buffs, which I appear to be relying on more and more. This weapon just hasn't come online yet, and it probably won't come online for another few hours at least. This does cause me to die a few times, because I'm terrible, but eventually I get a level 2 Iron Pan, and give the Alchemist another shot. And of course, my damage has barely improved, but the use of stained pages still increases my damage enough to where I can win, eventually. This was a really tough fight. The Kraken Cyclops was meant to be my next, fight, and this guy struggles with the problem of being a big boss and being kind of slow. But I suck, so he manages to hit me plenty of times, and even though my health regeneration is good, I die. So I instead head to the False Jester to unlock more upgrades from the castle. The Jester isn't tough, he has so much less health than the Cyclops, and so much less defense, that I managed to kill him on the first try. Not too shabby. I then proceed to get the first brand that allows me to flip upside down at certain points in the map. Wherever these spires are is where I can flip upside down, although I need to be careful because I could still die from fall damage. I then head towards the Castle of Storms, where the next boss fight awaits us, still with only a level 2 weapon. At this point, a regular weapon would be level 3 or 4, but it doesn't particularly matter in the grand scheme of things. There unfortunately aren't any upgrades in the castle, so we can skip straight to the Kraken Worm boss fight. We deal alright damage, all things considered, but that's only when using stained pages to add some elemental damage to our weapon. Otherwise, it's a miserable slog as usual. And unfortunately, the problem with 2D Souls-like games rears its ugly head. The movesets of enemies and players are limited by the inability to move in a 3D plane. For example, the best punish window for bosses is almost always to roll to their back and hit them, which is a shame because it can take out the nuances of trying to find opportune punish windows. One example of this could be when Calamite does his fire breath attacks. He can do 3 separate attacks that all have different punish windows, whereas in this case the worm has the same punish for 3 of his fire breath attacks. Anyway, with the rant out of the way, the worm goes down in only a couple of attempts, and with the worm dead, we get the Shadow Flip brand, allowing us to Mario jump off of walls. The next area is the Red Hole of Cages. However, I'm not currently interested in the boss in this area for now. I am way more interested in my favourite creed, the House of Splendor, more affectionately known as the Golden Boys. But why is this my favourite creed? Well, to tell you that, I'll explain how creeds work. Creeds are factions that you join when playing Salt and Sanctuary. Now, each sanctuary is associated with one creed or another, with some exceptions. Some sanctuaries don't have a creed, but you can claim said sanctuaries for your own creed. Now, if you have a leader at a sanctuary, whether they are naturally there or they're summoned by a stone leader, you can do some work for them. This consists of farming enemy drops, such as bat wings or ember skull ashes. Now, each creed has a special item that respawns when you die or rest at a sanctuary. For example, the Iron ones have an item called the Metal Shock Stone, which adds lightning damage to your attacks equal to your weapon damage. So why are the Golden Boys my favourite? Well, every buyable consumable from vendors does the same as these items from the creeds. However, the Golden Boy's special consumable is called the Golden Wine. This boosts my physical damage by 50%, and I can also use weapon buffs such as pitch fire or stained pages. And this boosts my damage to actually acceptable levels. Now, because I already did some farming, I can get 2 golden wines already, and there's 2 easy enemies I can farm to get either more healing or more golden wine. The 2 easy enemies to farm are called the Whispermen, located in the Dome of the Forgotten, and the Drowned Soldier, located in the Village of Smiles. In the Forgotten Dome, I run across the Untouched Inquisitor, and with weapon buffs and golden wine, the damage I'm dealing is decent. And the trick for this boss is to make sure you are directly underneath her. She can't touch you if you are, and even the attacks that can hit you are all easy to dodge. Despite this, I still die and give up. So I let this fight cook for a bit. I farm the Whispermen in these halls to get some more golden wine and head back to the Kraken Cyclops. And the wine is putting in work. With 18 damage a swing, which sounds insanely low, he's easy. With that fight complete, we move on to more difficult endeavours. Running through the Red Hole of Cages is simple enough, and there unfortunately aren't many upgrade materials around for me to pick up. It appears that my weapon has a bunch of rare materials required to get max level. I mean, the closest pickup for the Charred Lockets, the second upgrade tier, are in the Crypt of Dead Gods, the penultimate area in the game. The only other way to upgrade this weapon is to buy the materials, and I need to get through the dreaded Tree of Men to do that. There are several things wrong with this fight. All the hitboxes, as usual, are pretty good, so I never feel like I get hit when I shouldn't. The problem with this boss is also its greatest strength, the design. Let me explain. In the first phase, you need to hit the men that are hanging from the tree to deal damage to the boss. After the men are dead, his head becomes the weak point. Now, throughout all that, you need to be jumping up and down platforms to damage the boss, while avoiding not only the boss's attacks, but also environmental hazards as well. Those hazards being flamethrowers, and while its head only comes in range every so often, you can deal damage. Like I said, it's a cool boss, but it's frustrating at the same time. Hager's Cavern is the next area, and there aren't many areas that actually suck in this game, but this area sucks. If you thought the skeletons or dogs in Dark Souls were bad, this area literally has teleporting skeletons. Like, devs, why did you ever think this was a good idea? It's not. Anyway, I grabbed the cellar key by backtracking in the Hole of Cages, and the next boss is the Disemboweled Husk, a cool undead pirate, who I managed to get so close on the first try, but a gun combo kills me, which is fine. Second attempt and a skeleton teleports into the arena. Great. Second attempt ends the same way the first does. I do manage on the fourth try, thankfully. It's the same strategy, although the husk can punish roll attacks with a quick blast to the face. Now, at some point, I upgraded my weapon to level 4. Not quite sure when, but it does 22 strike damage now. I can only surmise that at some point between attempts of the Disemboweled Husk, I upgraded my weapon and just didn't show it on camera. The next area is the Mire, and there are upgrade materials to grab here, although I don't go out of my way to do so. See, we can kill the lepers here, and take their ears to upgrade our Creed rank to either get more healing or golden wine. But other than that, the only thing interesting is the boss, the Stench Most Foul. Not a tough fight, but an interesting gank fight nonetheless. It's a trend I'm noticing, even with a bad weapon, the bosses just don't seem to be able to do much. On the first attempt though, it got me stuck in a healing spiral, eventually causing my death from the poison of my wine and the poison of the area. At the end of the area though, I get the Redshift brand after defeating the Stench Most Foul, which allows me to phase through red walls so I can reach other areas. Back to the Dome of the Forgotten for the rematch of the century. One man with his iron pan against the untouched Inquisitor. This time with an upgraded weapon, weapon buffs, and golden wine. The Inquisitor goes down easy peasy. With the untouched Inquisitor dead, I can start the second layer of this tower, and upon climbing to the very top, my next boss fight is already upon me. The Third Lamb, a chimera who can shoot lightning and deal a boatload of damage. We don't deal the best damage ourselves, but with Pitchfire doubling our attack and the golden wine, it's not too terrible either. The strategies remain the same. Roll through the boss and punish. Try not to get hit. And we beat it on the first try with not a sliver of health to spare. And we obtain the Hard Light brand as well. Using the salt obtained from the boss, I start leveling willpower so I can continue to attack more and more as the run goes on. With the Hard Light brand unlocked, the Dried King is my next boss fight in the Ziggurat of Dust. And oh my god, I absolutely clowned on this guy. It wasn't even close. With a blessed page and a golden wine and a large amount of stamina, I could fully stunlock the king. It wasn't even close. And with him dead, I obtained the Dart brand, allowing me a dash. The Pitch Woods is the next area, and while the parkour is a little tough, there's nothing in this area I need. But thankfully, the final upgrade tier is upcoming for me, so look forward to that power boost. And I surprisingly managed to get past the unicorns on the first try, without dying. And in the ruined temple, my penultimate upgrade materials, the Charred Reliquary, which now makes my weapon deal a whopping 76 damage, plus 50% and plus 76 of whatever element I decide to add to my weapon. Back in the Pitch Woods is my next stop for the final upgrade tier. I know I just said I didn't need any upgrade materials from there, but I lied. I need to ascend this tower for the materials within. Unfortunately, I kinda suck at this game, so it takes me way longer than it should, but I get there eventually, where I grab the Charred Tome, which will allow me to get my weapon to +7. And I head over to Cran's Pass, where the next boss fight is, conveniently enough named Ronan Cran. And with my maxed out weapon and buffs, I smoke him easily. And then I run straight to the next boss without even healing until I get to the equivalent of a Stake of Marika. It's the Bloodless Prince. And despite his ridiculous health bar, I completely shred him as well. There isn't much to say apart from get wrecked. The floating castle in the sky is my next target, and the boss inside, Maul. Easily my favourite boss in this game. She kinda reminds me of Maleficent in a way. But unfortunately, the boss fight is super easy with a maxed out weapon. Barely an inconvenience, despite her cool design. At this point, she just takes too much damage from my attacks, and despite me dying once, it's only because I was playing way too recklessly, trying to completely stunlock her like I did the Dried King. But playing it a little slower gets me the win. And the Coveted is next, and it's over. I guess that's what a blunt, weak boss looks like. Back to the Pitch Woods and immediately die from the Spindle Beasts. Great start. After successfully getting past them, I hit the checkpoint and run to the next boss, Karstraw the Cruel. I'm not sure what's up with this fight, but I struggle with his moveset. Maybe it's because I get too greedy, but he's not always the free win that the community says he is for me. Second attempt went fine though. The Witch of the Lake is the next boss, and she is generally considered the hardest boss in the game, and it's not hard to see why. Her wombo combos and her large area of effect attacks are powerful, but if you know her moveset well enough, you can predict how she will attack. Generally, if she's low to the ground, she'll melee swipe and then move up higher and do the shotgun blast or summon her minions. Generally, the lower to the ground she is, the more dangerous her attacks. The shotgun especially, but all of them can be countered by remaining underneath her and laying on the damage. And although I don't have the stun potential, as with the Dried King, this fight goes down all the same. The Salt Aquilmary is next, and let's just skip to the boss fights for this one. There's no need to talk about the area as there isn't any materials or upgrades here for me. The Unskinned is the next boss, and I clowned on this duo fight. They just took way too much damage from each of my hits. Didn't matter which one I attacked, they both easily went down. Next up is the Forgotten King and Friends, and the boss runback killed me more times than the boss did. Once I got to the boss, which took like 4 attempts, I once again clowned them. They take so much damage, and my health and healing is so strong that I can power through all their attacks and erase them. Penultimately, the Kraken Dragon Scourge. This boss could be a problem. He has high damage and is resistant to blunt damage and all elemental damage. Therefore, we hardly deal any damage to him. It, however, only takes a few tries before we get back into the swing of things, and this Seath the Scaleless ripoff goes down. And finally, we're in the ultimate area in the game. The Still Palace, where the final boss, the Nameless God, resides. The first attempt doesn't go well. Neither does the second attempt. Third time's the charm, as they say. My damage is good, my dodges are on point, and with the final kill under my belt, we jump down the well, abandon the trusty pan, and beat Sultan Sanctuary with only an iron pan.